Welcome to your digital type of Celebrate Recovery.
Virtual
Celebrate Recovery. Since we are not able to meet tonight, we wanted to take the opportunity to get together and do some type of Celebrate Recovery. So I am a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle with pride, perfectionism, and the symptoms of depression. My name is Zach.
And I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle with alcoholism. My name is Dennis.
Hi, Dennis.
Hey, Zach.
Hey.
I wanted to go through a description of what a typical night of Celebrate Recovery would be. We arrive at around 7 o'clock and we have some announcements. People are gathering. We have worship where our worship leader will take us through a few songs, opening prayer. And then we go into the night's message. And the message is either going to be one of the lessons of Celebrate Recovery or a testimony for somebody who's talking about what their journey in recovery has been like.
Those are really good, by the way.
They are. Testimonies are like the best. Then we end up getting a focus question for our share groups, which happen after big group, which is the first hour. And we say the serenity prayer before we break up into our separate teams, where the women go into one share group and the men go into another share group. Share groups are where everybody gets an opportunity, following the CR guidelines, to share about what they're dealing with or what their week is like, or not share. You're free to pass if you'd like. And the team just supports you and listens and helps you take the next step in your recovery journey. We go back up for fellowship, and as people are leaving, they look at our Celebrate Recovery resources that we have out in the narthex, or the vestibule, or the little room outside the big room. I'm not sure how you would describe it, but just look for all the materials. And we really encourage people to take some materials with them. They do a lot better if they're in your hands and not sitting in our box stored away.
Yeah, and some of the beauty of Celebrate Recovery is that entirety of fellowship, listen to a lesson or a testimony, the open share time, all of it is meant to be confidential, safe, a place where you can just find support, acceptance, and hope, and not worry about finding any judgment or condescension or anything like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you think it'd be a good idea if we read through the 8 principles?
Yeah, it's a good synopsis of what Celebrate is all about. So,
all right.
So we're going to read through Celebrate Recovery's 8 recovery principles, and they're based on the Beatitudes. Realize I'm not God. I admit that I am powerless to control my tendency to do the wrong thing, and that my life is unmanageable.
Matthew 5:3 tells us, happy are those who know that they are spiritually poor.
Earnestly believe that God exists, that I matter to Him, and that He has the power to help me recover.
And Matthew 5:4 says, happy are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted.
Consciously choose to commit all my life and will to Christ's care and control.
Matthew 5:5, happy are the meek.
Openly examine and confess my faults to myself, to God, and to someone I trust.
Happy are the pure in heart. Matthew 5:8.
Voluntarily submit to any and all changes God wants to make in my life and humbly ask Him to remove my character defects.
Matthew 5:6 says, happy are those whose greatest desire is to do what God requires.
Evaluate all my relationships, offer forgiveness to those who have hurt me, and make amends for harm I've done to others when possible, except when to do so would harm them or others.
And Matthew 5:7 tells us, happy are the merciful. And Matthew 5:9 says, happy are the peacemakers.
Reserve a daily time with God for self-examination, Bible reading, and prayer in order to know God and His will for my life and to gain the power to follow His will. and yield myself to God to be used to bring this good news to others, both by my example and my words.
And finally, Matthew 5:10 says, "Happy are those who are persecuted because they do what God requires." So we thought, given that we are restricted by the coronavirus and we are not able to meet tonight or for the next couple weeks, we thought it'd be a good idea to get together, kind of have a table talk, devotional type of discussion. And being is that we are forced to be separate in a time like this, Dennis and I thought it'd be a good idea to talk a little bit about acceptance and what that means with our own recoveries, our relationships, and how we get through things with acceptance. So why don't you jump in? I thought maybe we could jump off by talking about what acceptance from others and from a group, like a Celebrate Recovery group, means to us.
So acceptance from a group like Celebrate Recovery means that regardless of what my hurts, hang-ups, or problems have been in the past, I'm accepted. I am welcomed. I'm not judged. I'm supported, and I just feel welcome when I come into the group.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to use you and I in our relationship as an example.
Sounds great.
Dennis and I are accountability partners, and is it fair to say that we're not that similar?
That we're nothing alike? Yes, I think that's quite fair to say.
Yeah, we both have black rimmed glasses.
Yeah, well, mine's are gray rimmed, but
I can't even get that right.
little bit different.
But Dennis and I, we don't have the same thought path.
Correct.
Put it that way, to put it lightly. But acceptance in this accountability partner relationship for me means that even though we're different, and I can go to Dennis and share the things that I'm struggling with that are weighing down on me, or burdens that I've placed on myself, things that I've decided I want to struggle with. You can look at that, listen to me, and probably in the back of your head think, this guy's a bit crazy, but you can accept me for who I am. And at the same time, you can hold me accountable and help me adjust my mindset. Because how many times have I come to you and I've said, man, this is really bothering me. And I remember one time recently where you just said, why are you even worrying about that?
Yeah, we do have very different approaches on how we look at anything. And you know, I'm older, I'm retired. I don't worry about near as much as I probably should. And that's one of the ways you correct me. You remind me that things are important. Much like I shared something with you just in the last couple of weeks, and all of a sudden we're sitting here doing a devotional on acceptance.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm sure it was totally coincidence, but it really helped me change my mindset quite a bit over the last week and think about it differently, because the definition of acceptance is you do accept. It doesn't mean you put up with it. It doesn't mean you just don't complain about it. It means you truly accept and love whatever it is that you need to accept.
Yeah, and just thinking about what Celebrate Recovery really is. So we say Celebrate Recovery is open to anybody that is dealing with a hurt, a habit, or a hang-up of any shape, form, kind, type, style, whatever you want to call. Basically, it's open for anybody that's got a struggle or a burden they're carrying.
There are two types of people. There are people who know they have something to deal with and they're in Celebrate Recovery. And then there's the people who ought to be in Celebrate Recovery to deal with what they need to deal with. So
yeah, and if you're one of those people that you don't think you've got anything that you're struggling with right now, you can lead next week's lesson on Celebrate Recovery.
That's right, because I started out as one of those people, if you remember. I was going to help and celebrate recovery because I had time and I was, just getting ready to retire and I wanted something to put my efforts into. And it was not long while we were going through the leadership training that I discovered that, no, I really need this Celebrate Recovery. Not because my life was falling apart, but thank God I got through it before my life fell apart.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? But Celebrate Recovery has just been great in building a community of people who are also going through issues, some much more severe, some not nearly as severe, but just all levels of issues, and you're there to support each other. It's really great.
And accept each
And
other.
accept each other.
Yeah. And I just think to the beauty of the times where somebody may come up to one of us after CR is done, or maybe we get an email 3 days later, and all it says was, I'm glad I came because I feel like this is where I should be. Or all it says is, I felt welcome there. I felt at ease. I felt accepted. And that is like, I want to throw a parade because in my mind, that's a miracle because I just thinking about the world that we live in today, how often do we spend time around other people and feel accepted? I mean, it's about as divisive as it can get in society right now.
Right.
But in this Celebrate Recovery, this atmosphere of acceptance has been found. And it's not a level of acceptance of saying, it's okay that you use drugs. Right. Or it's not looking at me and saying, it's okay that your pride causes you to live in anger. It's saying, we're going to accept you for where you are, recognize that we've all fallen short, right, that we've all sinned and fallen short of the kingdom of God, but we're all in this together. We're going to each be on our own road to recovery, but we're all going to travel the road together, right?
And it is Celebrate Recovery. Yeah. It's not do recovery. It's not whittle through recovery. It's Celebrate Recovery. So we really do want to celebrate every little step along the way, even if it's, I showed up today.
Yeah, and that is, you've got to take time to celebrate those incremental steps.
Exactly.
If it is, I showed up, and then the next thing is I showed up and I shared.
Right.
And then the next thing is I recognize that I need to quit doing this, and I'm going to work on it. We want to celebrate each of those steps and be accepted by our group while we do it together. So I want to read, because this is one of my favorite scriptures, 1 Peter 3, 8 through 9 tells us, finally, all of you, be like-minded, be sympathetic, love one another, be compassionate and humble. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing, because to this you were called, so that you may inherit a blessing. I think that's what it means to accept one another.
And that's a verse that defines what we do in share group, in open share group. It's what it's all about. We're taking the evil parts of our lives and our past, laying them on the table, and they're just being accepted, and blessings are coming in return. Yeah. It's so great.
What do you say about the open share group?
It's where the miracle happens. Yeah. It's exactly where the miracle happens.
Usually everyone sits and tolerates me speaking for 20, 30 minutes each week until we get to the open share group. That's what everyone...
That's it.
Well, no one pays to come, but that's what they would pay to come for. Yeah. So we talked a bit about accepting each other, being accepted.
Right.
I want to talk for a minute about finding acceptance in God and being accepted by God. What does that mean to you?
So I know I am forgiven, whatever I've done, and I am accepted and totally loved by God. He loves me, and he knows my name, and he wants to use me as a vessel for spreading his grace and his mercy.
Yeah.
So I know I am loved by God, and I know I'm accepted. It's not a question. He sent his son to die for my sins. Many of them I haven't yet committed.
Yeah.
But he did that because he loves me and accepts me so much. And he expects me to do some of that accepting and loving on his behalf.
Yeah. See, this is where I envy you, because I'm going to go back to how we're wired differently, and my mind doesn't naturally work that way. For me, I think it's more of a challenge to recognize that I'm accepted by God. And I truly believe that regardless of what I choose to do, I'm accepted by God. My role in the game is to recognize it and live into it. But what I really struggle with is recognizing that and feeling it right in here, because for me, I think I struggle to, or have struggled to, accept myself. And I'm the type of person, and it goes with that pride, perfectionism, and a pull towards depression, where when it comes to thinking about being accepted, I just want to run through all the bad choices I've made in my life. I want to count up all the different things. And you heard me say I struggle with pride and perfectionism. What you didn't hear me say is I used to struggle with alcohol abuse, drug use and abuse, bad relationships, anger to the point of violence. Those things, for the most part, are in my past, but they still creep back up when I try and think of it. If I'm accepted by God, I think, well, how can that be? Because sometimes I look at myself and I see all of my past, and I see all of my imperfections today, and I think this scale it's tipping on the wrong way. But what you touched on is, see, this is why we make good accountability partners.
Yeah. There is no scale.
Yeah.
There is no scale.
The acceptance is there, and
Right.
God doesn't look at me and think, he's somebody who used to struggle with drugs and alcohol. He looks at me and thinks, there's a child of mine.
That's right. And I sent my son to save him.
Yeah, and all of his sins are wiped out.
They're gone.
Yeah. So I think that is the acceptance in God for me.
Right.
And for me, it's a daily battle to recognize that and start every day with that mindset.
It's a daily battle for me too. I just get there a little quicker.
Yeah. So I want to pivot a little bit. So when people think of Celebrate Recovery, they think addiction.
Right.
And we've been talking a little bit about how it's a little bit more than that. Even if some of us might deal with addiction, whether that addiction is the drugs, alcohol, pornography, food, whatever that may be, it can be more than that. That being said, I think I've become a bit of an addict with a good thing.
That's good.
So I think I found that I've become addicted to the Serenity Prayer. And you mentioned we say it every week as we get ready to progress from our large group to our small group. But it's become a daily routine for me and part of my daily life. First thing in the morning, every morning when I wake up, I like to say the Serenity Prayer. And sometimes I find that I have to say it 3, 4, 5, 6 times before I can remember that I said the whole thing. But as I look at the Serenity Prayer, I think there's a few pieces in there that hold acceptance. And
Right.
I think, would you be okay if we talk through each of those?
I think that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does the Serenity Prayer start out?
It says, give me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change.
All right, well, it's right there.
Yes, it is accept.
Yeah. So accept the things I cannot change. What does that mean to you?
Well, it means, how does God accept me, right? Total love, total forgiveness. So accepting the things I cannot change doesn't mean I put up with it, or I don't complain about it, or or I just live with it. Accepting the things I cannot change means I have to figure out how to make them a part of my life and integrate them and love them and make it. If it's a person, I've got to establish a relationship or maintain a relationship.
Yeah.
If it's something else in my life, I can't just say I'm going to put up with it, but I have to figure out how to integrate it. And if it's broken, help make it better.
Yeah, and this is a huge one for me. Did you hear me say what I struggled with?
Yes, pride and perfectionism.
Yeah. Perfectionist, I think I call myself that. I think some people might call me a control freak, and that wouldn't be too far off the mark. But this is a daily battle for me. Accept the things I cannot change. And I literally think of accepting the things I cannot change. I just picture myself driving in the car, getting irritated at somebody that I think is driving too fast or not paying attention or is too close to the behind of me or didn't use their turn signal and they're not doing all the things that I think they should do. They're not driving the speed I think they should drive. And that's just one example. It goes way beyond that for me. I have this like craving to control how you think about me and how you react when I say something and how many friends I can make and how people view me and how things go for me at work or in my social life. And so this is a daily battle for me. And I think when the Serenity Prayer was written, it was before I was born, but I think they might have had me in mind, or there was an image of Zach Noggle, because why else would it start out with God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change as the first thing. And that's what I say so much as I get through that first part. But for me, accepting the things I cannot change isn't just saying, it's all okay,
right.
Easy breezy life. No, it's just recognizing that I don't need to try to control everything. And I'm wasting my time, my energy, and my emotions trying to do that.
Right.
And by accepting that I can't control everything, I can't change everything, everything's not going to be perfect, there's serenity and peace in store for me, right?
And you can devote that energy to something you can do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the next part that jumps out to me is accepting hardship as a pathway to peace.
Right. For me, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, we all are in need of recovery because we've always accepted the easy way, right? We didn't take the hard path. We didn't do the hard things. It was a lot easier to go out drinking than it was to face the problems I was dealing with or whatever.
We did what felt good or felt right.
Right.
Or made us feel better.
Right. And masked all the problems or the bad feelings.
Yeah.
But the hardship that leads to peace is the hardship that takes you through those problems. You deal with them, you deal with your feelings, you deal with the anxieties, you deal with the addictions, you get rid of them, work through them, and you end up in a place that has peace.
Yeah, and I love that mindset. And there's a beautiful quote that Pastor Chris at Faith Point uses a lot, and it's by Frederick Buechner. It says, resurrection means that the worst thing is never the last thing.
Right.
Resurrection means that the worst thing is never the last thing. And that mindset of, yeah, I'm struggling with some stuff. Yeah, I feel I don't want to get out of bed today. Right? I don't want to go be around people. I don't want to talk. I don't want to do any of that. I'm just feeling overwhelmed. That mindset of, but this too shall pass.
Right.
I'm going to make it through this. And what's on the other end of it is peace.
Better.
Yeah. This hardship that I'm in is not hardship for hardship's sake. It's a pathway towards peace.
Right.
And if you can have that mindset of this isn't the end, whatever it is, there's better in store. And that mindset, I think, allows us to look at, man, I'm really stressed out right now. I'm overwhelmed. I'm feeling tempted. I want to go use. I want to drink. I want to act out. I want to get rid of this anger and push it out on the world around me. I just feel overwhelmed, but I'm going to use it for God. Because whatever it is, whatever hurt, whatever habit, whatever hang up you're currently struggling with, I truly believe God can use that if you let him.
Right.
And I think we have this saying at CR that God won't let a hurt go unused if you allow him to use it.
Right.
And that's all that mindset of hardship as a pathway to peace.
Yeah, and there's the other quote that I really like as well. If you're going through hell, just keep going.
Yeah, sometimes that's the quote that we need to hear. Yeah. So towards the end of the Serenity Prayer, there's a last bit that says, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you in the next. That's tough.
Yeah, the first reaction is, I kind of want to be supremely happy right now, right? Why do I gotta wait till the end? But if you really think about it, when are you going to be most happy, right? You can't be totally happy if you're in this world, because happiness, total happiness is perfection. It's total love.
Yeah.
And there's only one place that total love and total perfection exists, and it's not on this world. Yeah. So the best you can hope for is supremely or reasonably happy here and supremely happy with God in the next. However, it doesn't mean we can't really enjoy the happiness we have here. I mean, there are times you feel like, wow, it can't get any better than this, right? When you're having success, when you're doing the right things, when things are going right for you, it seems like pure, unadulterated joy, right? But it's even going to be better.
Yeah. Now that is a tough pill to swallow for a perfectionist. For somebody that wants to continue to strive towards perfection in this life, living in and accepting the mindset that I can find a way to be reasonably happy here, but knowing that the best is yet to come, that supreme happiness is in the next life, in the afterlife, in heaven, when we're united with God, that changes the way that we operate. Like finding a way to accept that, I think it makes the hardships that we're going through feel a little bit less hard.
Right.
It makes the burdens that we're carrying feel a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
It makes us progress through things a little bit quicker.
We hope.
We hope. Yeah.
Right.
But finding that acceptance, and when I think of accepting that we'll find a way to be reasonably happy in this life, it reminds me of a story, and for the life of me, I could not find the origin, so we're going to go with an unnamed person. And if you've heard this story again, it can be told 1,000 times and still impact me.
Right.
But there's this story of a Christian lady who received a terminal diagnosis, was told she had 3 months to live. And I have a feeling she might have been a perfectionist or a planner, because she called up her pastor and wanted to plan her funeral and how things were going to go. So she calls up her pastor, and they sit down and they talk about what hymns are going to be sung, the message that he's going to deliver. The people that are going to be there gets excited about thinking about friends and family that are coming to celebrate her life and mourn her passing. And as they're planning this out, she says to him, I want you to do me a favor. When you put me in that coffin for everybody to see, I want you to put a fork in my hand. And the pastor says to her, fork? Like, okay, flowers maybe? Like a prized possession? A fork, I don't get it. Tell me about this. And she says, well, my whole life I've been going to these potluck dinners, church gatherings, dinners, Thanksgivings, all of our family meals, and people would always come up to me and they'd elbow me and say, hey, hang on to your fork. Keep your fork.
Keep your fork.
Because the best is yet to come. And they have this beautiful meal, and I just pictured a delicious, huge Thanksgiving dinner, and somebody saying, oh, hey, Dennis, hang on to your fork, because there's more to come, and It's even better than what you're having right now. And then I just imagine people bringing out this delicious cherry or apple or blueberry pie,
pumpkin pie,
creme brulee, whatever you can think of that is your favorite dessert. Imagine that. Because for her, she kept hearing, save your fork because the best is yet to come. And she said to her pastor, I want you to put that fork in my hand so that everyone that comes by and takes a look at me is going to ask you, what's with the fork? And then you can tell them the story of, for her, the best was yet to come, and now she's living into that best. And that best is yet to come is what I think of when I hear supremely happy.
With you forever in the next.
Yeah. So how about we close this in the serenity prayer?
That sounds like a great way to close.
Okay.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah, thanks for joining in on one of our fairly regular conversations. And in this time where we're forced to be separate, I just pray that you can find a way to be acceptance towards others. That you can seek out others who are going to accept you for where you are and who you are and walk this journey with you, and that you can be a word of encouragement to others. And we're going to have our contact information up on the screen, just so if you need someone to reach out to, do not hesitate to reach out to us. We hope that when this virus runs its course and we open our doors back up, you'll join us for Celebrate Recovery, and join all of us who are struggling with a hurt, habit, or hang up, or like me, all of the above.
And accepting everyone else as they join us.
And finding acceptance there. Thanks for joining us, and God bless.
God bless.